All right. So recently, I was asked to kind of describe, uh, what it's like to join a club and be in a club. How did I get the information about clubs that I have? Well, simple answer is I rode for a club. I was a member of a club for about 9, 10 years. So, using that, I'm going to answer this question as best I can without getting too much into personal stuff about it. Just kind of like the basic idea of what is club like, kind of like, and how do you get into the club? Well, as I've said that in reverse order of how I'm actually going to explain it, the simple answer, the most basic answers on things that I can give, but with as much detail as I can give it. So, with that being said, let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is obviously you're going to want to have a motorcycle, um, and you're going to want to kind of based off of your pick on motorcycles you like, that'll kind of dictate what kinds of clubs you'll be eligible for because they have rules that have been there longer than you, so they're not going to change them for you. So you have to just kind of respect that. So you'll pick yourself a motorcycle, and then what you're going to want to do after that is you're going to want to spend a couple of years riding by yourself, just kind of getting the hang of being on the vehicle, being able to get out and do things, learning what to take with you, how to take things with you. Let's say your motorcycle doesn't have something like saddlebags. Okay, well, how do you carry a coat should you need it, or potentially might need it, or a hoodie or something like that? How do you carry tools? Like you got to figure these things out for your motorcycle. Um, and you want to, because things happen, especially on motorcycles. They're a lot trickier sometimes to figure out than cars. They're a different style of vehicle. So you're going to want to spend a couple of years kind of getting to know your machine, getting good at riding it, because no club that's actually going to be worth anything is going to just take fresh newbies. I don't care what all these goofy people on YouTube call like their own personal nicknames for shit. Okay, you're new. Okay, we're gonna speak pretty plain. I prefer that. The simple answer is on that you're gonna need those years because these experienced riders in these clubs are not gonna want to ride at high speed down the highway with some guy who's not familiar, or girl who's not familiar with their machine, is not a very good pilot, and they're not going to want to have you doing 70 miles an hour 3 feet from them. They're going to want you farther back where you're less of a threat and where you're safer on your own. So you'll want to do things like, also a thing to take into consideration when you join a club, or try to join a club, because not everybody makes it. When you try to join a club, they're going to expect you to be willing to ride in bad weather, and they're going to expect you to be willing to ride long distance. They're going to expect you to be willing to jump on that vehicle at a moment's notice and go, um, and be willing to communicate any potential issues. So that's something that you'll have to get used to. If you're not a very communicative person, this lifestyle might not be for you. So after you've been riding for a couple of years, you're gonna want to kind of start going to meets and local biker bars or whatever, and kind of get a feel for the environment. What clubs are about what, and a lot of the guys in those clubs are not necessarily going to just open up and tell you, right? They're gonna want to see you around a few times, get to know you before they're going to tell you a whole lot about something they take very personally. It's a personal thing because it represents a part of who they are, and a part of something that they do and that they're very passionate about. So it's important to them. So they're not just gonna just open up that shit to just anybody, right? So when approaching it, start friendly. Just be polite. Don't be trying to show anybody up. Don't be trying to play Billy Badass. Whatever. Just be yourself, because that's ultimately who they want to get to know. Like if they end up liking you and whatever, they're going to want to get to know you, right? They don't want to get to know some facade that like you might not be able to back up later on should you need to. They want to know who you are for real from the get-go. They don't want to see a facade, because that facade will get you in trouble. Okay, so get to know people on a for real level. Be honest with people about shit. And because they're going to expect that's no matter who you go with, whatever club you're trying to join, they're going to want you to be honest. Because that could affect other people in the club if you're not. So they need to know what kind of person you are, and they're going to find out one way or another. Don't make them find out the hard way, right? So your affiliations with clubs and kind of learn about clubs, and eventually you'll find a club that you like. Okay, so we'll kind of fast forward through that part, and you're riding around still, learning your bike, getting good at it, while you're learning these clubs and what kind of club you might want to join and that kind of thing. Okay, now you've located a club. Okay, and you've been riding, and you want to initiate the process of joining the club. Well, if it hasn't been brought up to you, it's something that you may want to bring up. And again, your approach in this matters. The way that you bring this up matters, because coming across overly arrogant is not necessarily going to do you any favors, but coming across super soft isn't going to help you either. You need to just be simple and direct. You're like, hey, I'm curious as to what it would take for me to potentially join this organization. Very just simple. I'm just being honest. Like, hey, I'm interested in joining. How do I do that? Something real simple like that. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Don't overthink it. Just kind of, do your thing. Be yourself. That's important here. I'm going to have to continue emphasizing that. Be yourself. So then let's say we're going to give you all positives in this, all right, so that you can get through the process. So the first thing they're going to tell you is, all right, cool. Well, we don't just prospect just anybody, right? We want to get to know you first. So why don't you meet us back down here? And they're going to start scheduling times for you to meet up with them. Okay, this is the beginning process of being a hang-around. And I'm sure that on anybody who's seen this, who has watched Gangland or whatever, has heard that term before. Yes, it is a real term. And that is because you are hanging around the club. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You are hanging around. And some clubs mark their hang-arounds. Other clubs don't. Some clubs will mark their hang-arounds only after they've been around for a certain period of time. And you'll find that that's a very common thing. And it's a very common theme, is that time spent. That time spent matters in all of this. And you'll see that that's a common theme. So be prepared for that. So you start your hang-around process, and in the end, they will mark you eventually if that club does that. And you might get a little round patch that you wear on your chest that says, I support. And then it'll have the club. And that is to denote that you are an affiliate, a direct affiliate, and know the people directly of that club. You are actually affiliated with that club. It's more than just a t-shirt you bought at the swap meet. That shit doesn't impress anybody. Anybody could go buy that shit at a swap meet for a couple of bucks. That doesn't mean you know anybody. It doesn't impress anybody except for those who are too ignorant to actually know anything about the world, that lifestyle. So that dot means more than that t-shirt does, means more than the hat does. That dot is actually something. Okay, that's a participation thing. That means you're involved, right? I support this club. You have to get directly from the club via affiliation. It's your hang-around cookie, or dot, as sometimes they're called. That denotes that you are a hang-around, and they will teach you certain things here. Certain clubs may expect you to have a particular introduction that you learn, and you are expected to go with them to events and attend those events and introduce yourself and start the process of becoming known and spending the time with the club. As you go through this, you'll learn more and more things about the club and about the brothers in that club. And as you learn these things, they'll expect you to retain this information. They need you to know it. They expect you to be a part of it and an active part of it. So when you then learn enough information, they will then If they determine that you are a good enough person, and depending on their voting system in their club, will then all get together and decide whether or not they want you to move forward to the prospecting period. Now, like I said, we're going to give you all positives here. So you meet the voting requirement. Enough people in the club say, yeah, bring them on in. Sounds good to me. They're a good person. Let's do this. Right? So then they're going to assign you, chances are, a big brother or a sponsor or something like that. Somebody to more directly teach you about the club and the way that they would expect you to behave in each part of the process of joining the club. There's a lot to learn about the organization. Many of these organizations have been around since the early 70s or before that. A lot of these clubs are pretty old. They have rules and regulations that have been established for a long time. You need to learn these things. So your sponsor or big brother will teach them to you. Again, you will be expected much more readily in the prospecting period. You will be expected much more to be a part of things and to be there and to be seen and to be introducing yourself, to be getting known, to be a part of the club that makes the club look good. You are supposed to uphold a particular something, as you are with any organization. When you get hired onto a business, there's an image they want you to uphold. There's a way that company presents itself, and they want you to fall into line with that. That's true everywhere you go. That's true in any team sport that you join. There's a look or a demeanor, if you will, and they want you to make sure that you're not out there looking bad, because let's face it, you may be wearing only one of their patches, but what you do is affiliated with all of their patches and every person wearing them. They're going to be selective about who gets to wear it, because that person is, when they're not around, you still represent them. You are still a part of what society perceives as that club and those members, and on top of that, in a much larger aspect, what society perceives as a club member. So there's an image that they would like to maintain. They're not trying to cause problems like that or arise any for themselves, and they will teach you how they go about doing things in the best way possible. All right, so you've completed your prospecting period. You've learned to count your days. You've learned to make sure that you were there for brothers. You've learned brothers' names, where they are, what they need. You've learned their personalities and things like this, and you've developed bonds and connections with these brothers. Next thing you'll do is you'll be in a probationary period. You'll get the votes for that, and then you move up. You'll get a second patch. This patch will then be your top rocker. So then you'll have your top and bottom rocker usually. And from there, you'll learn a bit more. Now, the best way I heard it described to me was, in the beginning, as a prospect, you are told what to do because you don't know. In the second stage when you're a probate, you are asked to do things, okay? Because you're supposed to know, but you might need reminding. So they'll ask, hey, will you do this? You'll notice things will get a little bit more friendly. They'll have a bit more respect for you. It won't be so bossy. It won't be, hey, prospect, do this. Hey, spec, do that. Hey, prospect, come here and grab me this, even though he's sitting right next to it. It's just to get you to be devoted to the club. That's a part of it, to do for the club. That's the idea, to do for your brothers. Then when you become a probate, then you'll move up, and they'll start doing things for you in return. And then you'll get to move forward with that. And as you progress through here, you'll learn more about the club. You'll learn more about the way that things are done, and you'll learn more about the way that they view respect and the way that they view respectable behavior, what you should and shouldn't be doing, other things like this. You'll get more of an education, and you'll start to develop stronger bonds with the brothers. You'll start to learn different levels of respect with them, things that they're more into and things like that. You get a little bit closer to everybody there. And then eventually you'll go through this probationary period, and all of the brothers, they all decide they really like you. Now you get to go through the patch in. You become a full-fledged member. All right, now what this means is, to add to that earlier summary, first you are told, second you are asked, third you're just expected. Just do it. You should know by now. You should know the rules. You should be well enough educated. You make it through your patch in, you get your patch, it's sewn on, it's in the right place, it's straight, everything's copacetic, right? You're doing all of the right things. Now, as a full-fledged patch holder, you are just expected to know how to behave, what to do, when to do it, how to ride in the group, how to ride out of the group, how not to make the club look bad, things like that. Don't go out being stupid in a bar. If you're going to go out and you're going to drink and you're going to have your patches on, don't go out picking fights. Right? Don't run from them, but don't go out picking them. Solve the problem. Don't start one. There's a code for you to behave, and it doesn't matter how that individual sees you. It matters how society sees you, because that changes the way that people react towards bikers on the road, especially clubs that have reputations. And that's just a simple truth. Now, we can get into another, by all means. I'll stop here and say, if you'd like to hear about the perspective of a biker on the road when it comes to being a patch holder, on the road specifically, we can do another video there. But to continue on, they'll expect you to know things. Now they'll expect you to be at events. You need to be there. They'll send you to specific events more specifically. If you are closer with certain people in certain clubs or whatever, if your club affiliates with other clubs, they might send you in particular to hang out with that club if they have an event or something going on. It's a huge community, and clubs do, on average, tend to get along. So when it comes to that, it'll be a lot of events where it's a lot of talking to people and bringing food and figuring out things you guys can do for your communities and things like that. It's a lot of actually trying to get together and go on rides and be a part of each other's lives, and be a solid support system for the most part. So then when it comes to like the everyday life of being in a club, there is the aspect of, it's going to come with a certain level of drama. You have a large number of people in a group that always creates drama. It doesn't matter the group. A group of teachers, there's drama. A group of cops, there's drama. A group of firefighters, there's drama. A group of soldiers, there's drama. It don't matter. A group of people at work, there's drama. It don't matter. Groups of people, there's always drama, right? And you need to be prepared for that, because biker drama is different. And just like you could say that like military drama is different, or police drama or firefighter drama is different, biker drama is different, because you're looking at life a little differently than a lot of other people. So when it comes to joining a club, I would have to say, if you really find it worth it and you really want to invest your time, you have the opportunity to meet a lot of really solid people. You'll have the opportunity to meet a lot of really goofy people, and you'll meet a lot of really obscene people. You meet a lot of different people, and you'll go a lot of different places. You'll spend a decent amount of money, and you get to see all kinds of cool bikes and places. It's not a bad investment for your time if you have the time, but understand, they're going to expect you to have the time. And that's about what it's like going through and joining a club and being a part of it. I hope that was beneficial to any of you on my 20-minute talk of biker education. Hope you dig it.